Now I'm putting this together with creating heritage. This is a very long agenda.
Yeah, it looks like we can get through it though pretty reasonably.
It's mostly just the attachments.
Yeah.
They're so big.
6.1.10.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We're live, just so everybody knows.
In 3, 2, 1.
Already.
Action.
I don't know where Jordan is.
You need one of those little.
Anybody talk to Jordan today?
Okay, so not on the agenda is this camera for the airport under 6.1, 1.5, 1.6, and 1.7. We've got the sweeper, the truck tender, and the loader.
Okay, so we're gonna go 6.1 on that.
Yeah. That's the cameras. Yes, I think that's the only question.
Okay, we're gonna start. I'm not sure where Councillor McPhail is tonight. Councillor Clausen is going to be absent as well. So we'll call the meeting to order at 7:03 on Tuesday, January 25th, 2022. We will start with our land acknowledgement, which is, as we gather here today, we acknowledge we are in Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis. We pay our respect to the First Nations and Métis ancestors of this place and reaffirm our relationship with one another. So, a couple items to add. We 6.1.18, which has been emailed as a late item, will be the award airport terminal building security camera RFP. And are there any other additions? Okay, so we'll just need a motion to adopt, please.
I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Seconder.
I'll second.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Reese, seconded by Councillor Vettery. And call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay. Okay, motion's carried. Okay, we move on to. Sorry, can I just have some clarification really quick? So, would you adopt the agenda typically then add the late items, or is that? Do it though. Okay, perfect. Just want to make sure. Okay, we move on to adoption of the minutes. 3.1, which is January 11th, 2022 regular meeting.
I'll move to adopt the minutes January 11th.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Councillor Bashara, seconded by Councillor Reese. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion is carried. Motion to approve January 19th, 22 minutes for the special meeting. Okay, well, motion by Councillor Hadorsky, and seconder.
I heard Ryan.
Oh, okay.
Ryan.
Sorry, seconded by Councillor Vettery. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Okay, motion's carried. We go to delegations in the public hearing. We start with the motion to suspend the meeting of council.
I will move to suspend the meeting of council in order to hold a public hearing for a bylaw.
And I think we need the
I'll
number.
second that.
I think we just need the amendment
Clarify
number.
with bylaw 65521.
655-21, yes.
Perfect,
Correct.
and seconded by Councillor Dorsky. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion is carried. Motion to hold a public hearing.
I'll move the council suspends meeting. Oh,
We just did.
so do we have a motion? Or?
Motion to hold a public meeting.
Okay. I
Public
will
hearing.
move to hold a public hearing for bylaw 65521.
Okay, seconder.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, sorry, it's motioned by Councillor Bashar, seconded by Councillor Reese. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion is carried. Councillor McPhail says he's on Zoom, but I don't.
So who has the bylaw for the reading? Do you have it, Amanda?
It's in the package.
Yeah, it's the bylaw
The
down
bylaw's in
below.
the back of the end of the minute.
It's at the bottom
meeting.
of the agenda, this is the public hearing.
6:25, whatever.
21.
655. It's for
655-21,
the,
there we go. At
North Shield
9.1.
Electric on Homestruck.
We've got
Okay.
Robbie on the line if you want him to talk to.
Issue report?
Sorry, just 1 second. I just want to figure out, because
I don't see
Councillor,
Jordan.
yeah, Councillor McPhail says that he's online. Okay, well, we're just gonna keep continuing. I apologize if we have to stop. Okay, we go into 4.3, which is a public hearing for the bylaw. So I just need a motion for.
Seeing that we are not getting any public response, I'll have a motion to close the public hearing.
Sorry,
We need to read the bylaw.
you've got to call 3 times.
The reading's at the bottom of the agenda. This is just.
Yeah, but we have to
No,
do
this
the
is just a
public
public
hearing 3
hearing.
times.
If
Yeah,
there's no
so-
objection, then we can move ahead with the rest of the
With the
bylaw.
second,
Yeah.
yeah.
Are there any delegations for this or?
Okay, hold on here.
Technical difficulties.
No, it's
No?
just so, cause we have 3, but why, I'm just wondering why these are in separate, are we doing them separate?
This just gives us permission to do the second and third reading. We don't have to do it until it comes
Yeah.
up on the
This
agenda.
Oh,
is
okay.
Planning and Development Act.
I see,
If
gotcha,
there's any delegations or,
gotcha, so we
Objections.
need the resolution first about the public hearing for the bylaw, right? Okay. So does someone want a motion for a public hearing for the bylaw?
I
Really did.
didn't,
We
yeah,
did.
I did that.
We did, okay.
and then Joe closed it. We don't need to do the public hearing.
So
now?
why do we have 4.2, 4.3 there? Is that separate resolutions?
Yeah. Well, the separate items, so you
Yeah.
do
So we
the
did,
motion
so
for
did
the
we do
public
4.2,
hearing.
4.3 already?
Yeah, we're at 4.3.
Yeah.
And typically it's good practice to wait about 5 minutes,
Mhm.
in case there are delegations, but
Yeah. Robbie, are
I
there
don't know
any
when they're
issue
coming.
reports or delegations attending in regards to the public hearing for bylaw
Or any submissions.
or submissions for this reading of the bylaw?
No, I didn't get any concerns submitted at the town office.
Okay.
And if you don't mind just letting in Councillor McPhail for me, he's at the top there now. Okay, so,
well, then I will move to close the public hearing for
I
bylaws.
had the motion on the floor already earlier.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
we
did?
got-
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, he did, but I
There's
said
no
just
public
wait.
response,
so-
so
Oh, okay.
I've made a
Okay.
motion, and if you want second to go ahead.
okay,
Yeah,
so
I'll,
if you want seconds,
yeah, it's fine.
sorry guys,
Yes, I'll
this-
second.
but
I
there's
know.
still no motion for 4.3, right?
Right.
I think that it's just a mistake that it's got a
It's
resolution
all
beside it.
small.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
like-
no worries, sorry, I'm just trying to follow the agenda here. Okay, so, motion by Councillor Hudisky, seconded by, Councillor Bashara, all in favor to close the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed say nay. Motion is carried. Alright, we move on to correspondence with request, 5.1.1, which is from the Tri-Community Homeless Shelter, and Deputy Mayor Councillor
We-
Hudisky, I'm gonna
Do we
pass.
need a motion to reconvene with our meeting if we had a motion to suspend earlier?
To reconvene with regular meeting,
Correct.
so I move to reconvene our regular meeting.
Thank you. Seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Reese, seconded by Councillor Hudisky. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion is carried. Okay, we move on to 5.1.1, which is a Tri-Community Homeless Shelter. Deputy Mayor Hudisky, I'm going to pass the floor to you. I'm going to declare conflict of interest just because of my involvement with the organization.
to also declare conflict because of my involvement with the organization.
I think we're
No
locked.
way.
Do we got keys?
Nope.
I'll leave and just wait for you guys to message me back.
Oh.
Except, is that one?
Okay, so there's been there's a letter on the agenda here. Has everybody had a chance to look at it in terms of what the request is?
So, my understanding is they're asking for
20,000?
10 to 20,000.
Yeah.
They're asking each community to contribute.
Startup funds to support the most vulnerable within the community, to ensure that the new organization deemed the Tri-Community Homeless Shelter Incorporated can organize, focus on both short-term success in establishing the new shelter and long-term solutions, and provide stability for community members who rely on a shelter and focus on improving outcomes for vulnerable citizens of the community. And that is on behalf of the Tri-Community Homeless Shelter Fundraising Committee and the board of directors.
So, my questions with this is, we have yet to see like a business plan as to how they are going, like, I know they need time to be able to do this, but they also need money to be able to pay someone to help them with it. And so it's a chicken and egg issue. And also there's the question of who is the appropriate body to be funding this? If it's, the taxpayers of L'Orange, or if this should be social services, justice, and health. And I think this argument's been going in circles for a long time.
For years,
Because, if the town doesn't step up, then who will, kind of thing. But at the same time, is it appropriate? I know Councillor McPhail's made the argument a few times in other cases as well, where it's provincial jurisdiction. Where are these provincial funders? So as much, I want to throw all the support behind this, but at the same time, sitting here being responsible for the taxpayer dollars, I don't know, what are your thoughts?
Excuse me, so Deputy Mayor, you don't have a quorum.
Oh no! 1, 2, 3, 4?
Yeah,
We have 4,
yes we do.
7?
If,
Councillor McPhail?
I thought you declared a conflict.
no, that
No.
was Councillor Vetri.
Okay, sorry.
well, the thing is, you don't lose quorum if you have two people. Even with three, you don't lose the quorum because two people declaring conflict. It's my understanding anyway. But I'm not.
Okay, but if
I'm
Councillor
not
McPhail's
sure.
there, you're good.
So-
I would like to, before we start to put money into it, I'd like to see maybe a little bit more of a, okay, where can we source money, because
Yeah.
basically,
And this is the thing, is they're asking for the startup money so that they can get somebody to help them with grant writing, and employ somebody. And I think this is the same struggle that other community groups like, what was it? Even the Arts Council has a struggle where they need the capacity by hiring somebody.
So, as a symbol of good faith, prior to requesting a business plan and a concrete plan and, asking them to access other funders, could we not use our special project funds, which we haven't really touched? There's a small amount there that we could throw behind this.
I think, didn't we?
Did we?
Didn't we spend?
I have no idea.
Okay,
And
yeah.
we could encourage them to apply to the community grant program that's coming up. There's an intake right away here in March 1st.
That's
right?
what I was thinking is what is our biannual budget for that? Is it 10 or 20?
I think it's 20 each intake, I
Yeah.
believe. I'm not 100% sure. And I know that we have a special projects budget which I believe is around $5,000, and if we've tapped into some of it, but I think that would be a gesture of good faith of we are willing to support you, but we would like to see a more elaborate plan around this.
Yeah.
But we're not saying no, we're not helping you. It is some help, and then we work together from there.
Yeah, because I noticed that in some of the media reporting, they're saying that they're asking for about $60,000 from the tri-community leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And so I understand it's hiring a consultant or employee to achieve operational status based on their letter.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just,
I think even if we had to adjust the top end of that program to accommodate it, I think that would still be the right approach to dealing with this issue in terms of assisting.
mm-hmm.
So I think it's a great idea, and
Yeah, I'd like to
we would
find,
encourage them to apply to this
and that I think that's probably a really good approach, is to have them find the ways within our existing policy budgets and not just grab money especially for this. I see that Councillor McPhail has his.
Oh, Jordan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good to go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
See your face there,
So I think that if we're going to be taking a holistic approach on how we tackle the homeless shelter issue here, we do have an organization that is currently running a homeless shelter, and I know that if we're looking at potentially throwing funding behind a strategy, I would want to make sure that the people that are also currently running it have some say in how this goes, but I understand that this is a totally separate and apart not-for-profit organization that's coming to the town to specifically fund their request to build or organize a homeless shelter. And I think that maybe what we need to do is have, if it's something that our tri-community is seeing, that we embark on that process on our own, separate and apart from that, to look at some sort of poverty reduction strategy or something of the nature. And I don't know if it would be appropriate to go to any startup incorporation to, especially in the amount requested. I think that's pretty hard to get behind at this point.
So, I guess we definitely need more information in order to move forward on this. And I think, like I said, consultation with the existing team that's in place right now. And the bottom line is we want someone to be functioning come next winter. And I guess getting ahead of the game, and I guess we could be putting money into this, and if they don't have the source of money to actually build or operate, but at the same time it may be an opportunity for somebody to access dollars to put an operating facility at some point. So it's kind of a catch-21 here. Do we I think at this point, I think we're still early enough that I think maybe we could try and gather a little bit more information before we make
I think the process of filling out the application for the community grant intake actually offers a chance for them to lay out a bit of that business case and understand what the real plans are, because this is a little bit light on information as to specifically what they're putting the money towards. So it may be a good exercise to see what, if they can come forward with an application.
Yeah.
And based on the merits of that, because in principle we all want the same thing, and in agreement with Councillor McPhail, we do have an existing organization that has 4 years, last minute typically, but they've stepped up every year to make sure that there is somewhere for our vulnerable to go, and knowing what the relationship is between them, just more information. And maybe, I don't know if the rest of council's interested in this, but having a one-on-one meeting outside of council to maybe sit down and discuss some of these details, because if we are putting, you know, $10,000 to $20,000 behind something, it would be nice to know a bit more in detail so that we can feel confident that if we are putting some of the tax dollars towards that, we understand the implications and the risk behind it.
For me, like I wouldn't want to hamper an initiative that may end up being a very viable solution to on an ongoing basis. So I think by going through the community grant program, they're going to have to put together a business plan that is going to have to qualify them for that money. So I think I'd be in favor of referring them to apply for that grant.
Yeah, so,
And considering we haven't set our budget for 2022 yet, we potentially have the opportunity to bump an intake if we so happen to have a bit of room in the budget for 2022 if we see some merit. And I think, just getting the information in front of us, I think is kind of the next step.
so I think the correspondence to this would be to apply for the community grant program as soon as possible so that we have that information.
Yeah.
Although the deadline is March 1st, I believe, right? And that would, we could take that into account before we do our budget.
And we'll happily accept
Discussion.
early applications if they're
Yeah.
on a timeline.
Yeah,
We could do that. We could review applications early. Yeah.
You should do them all together.
but at least it gives us a sense in terms of how much monies should be allocated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I guess if someone wants to put a motion on the floor, and we can
So I will move to refer the request to the community grant program and have them submit an application as soon as possible so we can put that consideration into our 2022 budget considerations.
Is there a second to that motion? Okay, second by Abby. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. Okay, the motion's carried.
I'll be free.
I will now return the chair to Mayor Natusniak.
Thank you. Okay, let's get my computer started back up here. So we're on to 5.1.2, which is the additions to reserve request in the report as presented as it slowly builds up on my computer. Robbie, you want to speak on behalf?
I guess we received an email about this letter. We previously responded back, I think, in 2018. And basically, just the file kind of went dead with the ministry, and then there's all of a sudden they had new interests, so we had to consult with the local parties again, with the local municipalities, and we were just part of the list, I guess. Nothing much more to add. The parts of the land in question, I guess, pretty much are south of Air Ranch. Didn't really see too much impact for the ranch.
Okay, just my question about this, is it, I don't, because it's not within our jurisdiction, so I'm just wondering why they,
Adjacent municipalities, it's
That's
just
it.
I
part of
think
the
it's just policy that
consultation.
any neighbors within a certain jurisdiction
got it,
will have to are given an opportunity to respond before the
okay,
request is finalized.
got it, okay, great.
I'll make a motion that we respond saying that we're not opposed to the transfer of that land.
Okay, and I think that there's a draft letter here, so are you okay with what the draft letter says? Is that what
Yeah.
we're?
Yeah.
Yeah. Councillor Radisky, is that what you're,
It's nice to see this finally coming to conclusion.
I think the draft letter has some typos.
No, it's here,
You got the corrected one?
January 26th.
Doesn't contain that extra paragraph.
Yeah, so basically it's, thank you for the opportunity to comment. The town of La Ronge Council has not identified any municipal interests or concerns related to the transfer of lands.
So you're good. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get a seconder. Sorry
I'll
for that.
second.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Okay, the motion's carried. We go into 5.2.1, which is the Shock Trauma Air Rescue Foundation request from STARS, and the email from Tammy Beauregard from the STARS Foundation. Does anybody have any questions regarding this? Was this just a general request that came through to council?
What's the request? I think it's just information, isn't it?
Nope,
It's a
they're asking for
donation
money.
request.
Yeah.
So how can you help?
Support.
Putting in a yearly
Yeah.
voluntary levy in your budget? Example, $1 to $2
Yeah.
per capita, or a straight donation of your choice per year. How often does STARS come up here? Or,
And have we donated in the
Have we ever-
past?
Contributed to STARS in the past?
yeah.
I'm not certain. Are you aware of any that we have?
That we've contributed in the past, no,
Yeah.
but Jim says that they do like medevacs out of the airport. But I don't know if that's STARS or.
Northern
No,
Medical
it's sort of
Services?
a blanket request goes to all, any SUMA member,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's coming from SUMA.
Yeah, like I don't think I've seen the STARS
Typically it's
helicopters.
medevac pilots with,
Yeah, and I
On
mean,
contract.
STARS it's typically helicopters.
Yeah.
When an aircraft can't get to a close location that has a
whereas it's more provincial air ambulance that would service this area because of.
correct. Yeah.
I guess they do some training work that, other communities that are outside the area can access, so it supports a lot of other things.
Mhm.
And the other thing is, we have northern people that travel all the time, and if we happen to be in an incident anywhere down south where you do get that service, it might save a life of a northerner,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's, we can't say, well, we don't get service directly here,
Mhm.
but we do travel, and there are people that,
because we have an airport
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, well, the thing that's different with STARS versus what we have available to us is that anytime we would need a helicopter, we have other companies that get a request to do that work. So kind of the work that STARS does, but STARS does it in the south.
And they do it where there aren't airports.
Right, exactly, which is totally. So I'm not aware of any STARS coming up to here, but like Councillor Hidisky said, like if we're down in somewhere down south and we or riding
Somebody's
bikes
child
and
from up here is in the children's hospital and needs to be
100%.
transported, yeah.
Yeah, that's where we're coming to. So I think one of those things really hard to justify until you need it.
Yep.
It's one of those things that until you've gone through that, you might go, okay, well, what do we need this for?
Yeah, and we don't see the helicopters
Yeah.
overhead.
100%.
they do provide EMS training and those kinds of things that people in our region would be able to have access to.
Mhm.
Could we perhaps direct administration to look into if there's past
Provide.
donations?
But
If there's past donations to STARS and what amount?
they tell us to do whatever you want.
Yeah, and, well, if council's in agreement, and to table this to our next meeting? Would,
Mayor,
Yeah.
sorry, Councillor Bectrey's not on the line. I don't
Oh,
think he's been.
God,
Oh.
sorry. That is totally my fault.
Here.
Hold on. Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
You got the message?
Yeah, sorry.
Are you guys done? Ryan.
Well, before we direct administration to do anything, let's wait for Councillor Getty. That stuff will tell you every cut and crack in your hands. Oh.
And the thing is, we don't have to go with the $1 or $2 per capita, we can
Yeah.
do a flat rate or whatever. I guess it's just showing support for the provincial organization.
We'll wait till Ryan's back here because I feel bad that we neglected him from an entire item.
Give him the opportunity.
Yeah, I'd actually like to go back.
Hi, Ryan.
I don't know if I'm allowed to do that, but can I do that?
Yeah.
Do what, go back to what?
Just go back to that, the previous.
The addition to reserve?
Yeah. I mean, it was.
You already made a motion.
Yeah. Councillor Petrie. Hi, I'm so sorry. We continued without you. Just for point of interest, 5.1.2 was motioned and carried in favor. So I do apologize in advance. We are on to 5.2.1, which is the STARS request. So far, Councillor Bashara has requested that administration provide a little bit more detail and background if we've done any requests in the past, or sorry, done any donations in the past. And I'll open the floor if you have any additions to this.
No, I'm fine, thank you. I was wondering what was taking so long.
I'm so sorry.
It's been an intense conversation.
So yeah, is there anything else that you want to add to the STARS request?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. So do you want a motion?
Do we need a motion if we just direct administration?
You can do whichever one you want.
Okay, I'll move to direct administration to look into any past donations and amounts, and to table this to our next meeting.
I'll
for further
second that.
discussion.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Bashara, seconded by Councillor Reese. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion is carried. Move to 5.2.2, which is Saskatchewan council training information, and this comes back from. Oh no, sorry, this is not. This is a completely separate one. So this. Sorry, say.
This is me. I put
Yeah.
this forward.
Go ahead.
So these they're 10-minute trainers, and they're really cool. So it's Saskatchewan, the government of Saskatchewan, and actually from other provinces have gotten together, and they've done these cute little 10-minute videos, and then council's supposed to decide what do you do in that situation. So what a lot of different municipalities are doing is at the beginning of the meeting or at the end of the meeting, they just do this quick little 10-minute, and then you discuss it and say, what would we do if this happened to us? They're cute. There's only a few of them.
Okay. And you do that in like a regular council meeting?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
If you guys want to.
Thoughts?
Sure. I'm always for professional development.
In Zoomland, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay, and is this something that we would do?
Committee of the whole?
Pardon?
Would it be committee of the whole that we would do that?
I would just like make it part of your council meeting.
Okay.
Maybe like the last meeting of the month always. You wouldn't do it every meeting, or you could do it quarterly. Because you're gonna run out if you.
Right. How many is there?
They're still making them. There's 3 modules. I don't know. I think that they only have 3 that they have done perfectly.
Okay.
But I don't know. I'd have to look that up for you.
What would you guys be prepared to do? Quarterly? Once a month?
I would just do them once a month if there's only 3, and then just get it done, because there might be more by then,
Okay.
right? Especially if it's only 10 minutes.
And tonight's not tonight, we've got a long agenda.
Yes, when we have a short agenda.
Yes, it's very true. Okay, so let's throw a motion on the table to start that.
I'll move to add 10-minute trainers to our last meeting of the month for council.
Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Councillor Bashara, seconded by Councillor Reese. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. The motion is carried. Move to 5.2.3, which is the 2022 Town, Village, and Northern Sector meeting, and the email from Mayor Rennie Harper. And assuming that this.
Yeah, I move to accept and file the letter from Mayor Rennie Harper on behalf of SUMA dated January 14th regarding the sector meeting happening February 9th, I believe it said.
That's correct. Seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Reese, seconded by Councillor Herdisky. Any further questions, comments?
Is anybody from the table planning to attend? Like I can't, being 9 to 3 on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
I'll be on Calgary that day.
Let's see.
I make the
So,
week.
I guess I have a question. Can we have a staff member attend on behalf of council? Could we direct our CAO to either attend as the CAO or designate a staff member in close proximity just for information purposes?
Well, you're inviting council administrators, I could see the administrator,
Perfect.
but not, you know.
But it could be a designate of the administrator, right?
Would administration have any interest in participating in the?
Never hurts.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I'll make that motion.
Okay, so we'll do the first motion, that's already on the table, so, all in favor of receiving and filing this first, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed say nay. And then if you wanna go ahead with your,
So I move to request that the CAO and or designate attend the meeting on behalf of council on February 9th in regards to the SUMA sector meeting.
okay, seconder.
I'll second.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Reese, seconded by Councillor Battery, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed say nay. Okay, the motion's carried. We'll move on to committee minutes and reports. Move to the tracker and staff report, and the updated tracker report. So first of all, I'll just quickly say I love this document a lot. I think this is really going to help us keep on top of things, so thank you. Is there anything else that you want to just bring to our attention?
Just you can see that staff worked really hard. Since last meeting, we got a lot done. So all of that will disappear off the tracker as we keep going.
Amazing, so thank you, and thank you to staff for all your hard work. Thanks guys, really appreciate that. So just be a receive and file.
I'll move to receive and file.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further questions, comments? All the questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Okay, the motion is carried. Move on to snow removal policy amendment. Mr. Turnbull, thanks for being here.
Yes, last council meeting, you asked me to take a look at the snow removal policy, so I put together what I thought was some items that would help with ongoing to refer to when we doing snow removal within the town limits. So this is kind of my effort to do that, and hopefully council, if they have any questions, I can ask. And it's pretty intense from what it was before, so I apologize for ripping it apart. So it's I don't know if it's amendment or almost a brand new from scratch, whatever. But if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, there's only one comment that I received from a resident, and that was, if they're unable to, when they say Windrow or Crescent, for example, if they know they're not going to have enough time, don't leave it overnight. Just do what you can do in that particular day, because what happens with that Windrow, you got people that have to park in front of their property if they don't have a driveway, and then other people can't get by, and so unless they, they could push it into piles with a loader in strategic areas, and if they didn't have time to haul around. But just that was the one point I thought I'd bring up.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I think signage is what we're going to kind of implement. We'll kind of be just a little bit ahead of the signage, and hopefully that'll help. I know what you're talking about. We on those crescents, when you come in and go out, we clean the corners, strategic areas, so they can get around.
Yeah.
But you're right, it makes it difficult to park if you don't get it. So yes, ideally we want to only do enough that we can get done. In most cases, time to time it won't happen, but we definitely know that is a concern for some people because of their property they can't get by.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah.
Sorry, did you have?
Does the changes to the policy reflect more of what has been done and how things are going to be improving, or is this aspirational in we're moving things further ahead by kind of pushing the policy to the next level? What's the take on this? Because I noticed there was a lot of red, but policy should be changed and improved. I'm just curious reading through it, I maybe don't know in practice how close the policy before was what we got, or if what we've gotten is what you've changed it to.
And that's a really good question, because there's a lot of marks up there. So to answer your question, what you had before, I've enhanced on something that we've basically been putting in place that was here before, and I brought when I came to it just from my experience with it, so put it in here. So I would have to say it gives a better direction and consistency on how you apply the policy and what we do to all the residents. So I think that's what it does. So to answer your question, I think it has enhanced in what it is to give direct idea about how you handle snow ridges, how you do timing. If you know that there's a lot of discretion to the manager here, and I think I've done that on purpose, and hopefully council can appreciate that, because every storm, every situation, every date in the calendar is different. So you have to be able to be flexible, not to say you're supposed to do this, but yes, but in this case, this is what the reason why we didn't, for emergencies, excess snow, long weekends, staffing, equipment. There's so many things that are kind of a moving target. So I feel comfortable with this, that we can implement it and provide the services that we need. Sidewalk again, like I said before, but I'll speak to that, in budget time, whatever is the only thing that I'm still struggling with. But I think it speaks to here what we want to do without pushing the envelope beyond what we can do right now. Besides with excessive snow. Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Mason?
Yeah, I think there's again a lot of good changes. What I'd like to see is that we approve what you've presented to us and put it on a 90-day probation, where after the 90 days we still, we've got enough winter left that we can say, okay, how is that working? And then we know going into next winter that it's going to work for us on an ongoing basis.
Okay, so is that a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, can I get a seconder, please?
Review, not probation. Review, 90 days.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Councillor Hudisky, seconded by Councillor Reese. It's going to open up just to further comments. What's our plan for communicating this to the public? Do we have a strategy on that so that we can make sure that our residents know that we are actively trying to improve that? Because I think that they need to know, especially when we start talking about signage and what's our plan?
I think signage is the key, because that's front and center direct in what we're doing that day. So that's the first thing we're working on. We've talked a little, we're getting some signs being done, so it's just a matter of timing to get those, your worship. And working with the staff here for a website and newsletter, and the radio station, local radio station has said it's absolutely a public service for free, so they put up their hand when I approached them. So those are some things that we want to do. So it's a matter of one point of contact here in the office to get that out. So that's what we're going to try to do, to get out as much as we can. And like from the policy to be looked at, I think we're looking to see how that works, because there's some places we're not getting them. Let's pivot and go to something else, similar type of media relations, to try to get it out there. It's a timely manner, and hopefully we can get at it with snow removal. So, we're going to try our best to do that. So.
Okay, amazing. Anybody have anything else to add? Okay, we'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say aye. Motion's carried. Thank you very much, Canada. Appreciate that. Okay, we move on to the Fire Department Annual Report. Keaton, are you on the line? I don't think so. But I will say that it's a very nicely put together report. So thank you for that. Does anybody have any questions or want to discuss anything?
Can we request that Keaton put the Town of Laurent report together? No, just kidding. Kidding.
Only you little thing.
Yeah, very nicely done.
Okay, so there is 2 resolutions here that have been recommended through.
Yeah, I guess it's the first time they've had an annual report, and I had the opportunity to attend the meeting yesterday for about 5 hours, and it's a good looking report, and I think it captures what's been done in the last year, and I think what we need to do is, I think what the request is that we put it on our line and put it out to the public. So I'd be in favor of that.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's the second resolution here. So
Are they
there's-
separate resolutions, or
Yeah.
can they be same? in
they
one?
are separate, I believe, right?
We
Yeah.
can put them into one.
Okay, okay.
So that, I'll move that, council receives the correspondence as provided and it be filed, further that the annual report be published to the town's website and shared on the town's social media account.
Okay, seconder.
I'll second that.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Bouchard, seconded by Councillor Reese. And yeah, I'll just say that, you know, when things like this get put together and we have a department that is doing a really good job, and that's not to say that all our other departments aren't doing a bang on job. This is just really great, so let's share our wins. Call the question, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Okay, the motion is carried. We move on to reconciliation training, and this was requested for further information to bring to council. Brianna, are you on the line?
Yes, Your Worship.
So you have the floor.
Alright, so does anyone have any questions about the report presented in front of you?
I do, Brianna. Did you request, or was it discussed that there was a special $50 fee for us instead of an $80 fee per participant? Number one, and then number two, when we say 55 employees, it's probably less, because I know that quite a few people might already have it.
Yes, so the reason why I chose 55 in my original quote was because I wasn't sure if we were going to include counselors or how many people we were going to include, so I just asked for the 55, just in case there was more people that we wanted to put through the training than just the 32 staff I believe we have.
Okay.
So is it, so it's just
So that can be changed. So it's $80 per participant. I did ask if that was negotiable to go lower, and they said no, 80 is the going rate, and that is very reasonable for this kind of training because there was a lot of work put into it. It's a online, go at your own pace, multimedia training that was put on by the University of Regina. They kind of took a Indigenous Studies 101 class and then created this 3-hour certificate program for organizations such as the towns, municipalities, and other businesses.
Okay, thank you.
So with that, just another quick clarification. So that just gives us basically 55 access points, and then is there an expiration date for when we use those?
Not to my knowledge. I can definitely check on that, Your Worship. I know moving forward, what I have to do is give a list of participants' names and emails so that they can give out the licenses. So we will only be billed for that spreadsheet of who got the licenses.
Okay, so at the flat 80, it's not like we're paying for the full 55, it's just what we're supplying.
Right. It is just, that was just a quote for 55. We will only pay for how many licenses we purchase based on that Excel spreadsheet of what the names and emails are for participants.
Okay, and then are you also going to be finding out who's already completed reconciliation training as well?
Yes, so I can go in and see who has passed and who has still more time left on their training.
And sorry, no, what I'm asking is like there's some people in this room that have already done reconciliation training, for example. So we may, I don't know if we could still offer, I guess, but if someone has already done reconciliation
What's
training,
the point?
yeah. So just you know what I mean? Like it doesn't make sense for us to pay for one for myself. I think.
No, for sure.
And
So
I took
what
the same
we-
one, so yeah.
is there certain reconciliation training that you approve, or is there, like, do you know what I'm asking?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Equivalencies,
Sorry.
if there's equivalencies that people have
Correct.
taken,
Yeah.
if it's not equivalent.
So if we are, like, yes, I completely agree that if you've taken reconciliation training, amazing, that's great, but what was that training? Is it equivalent? And what are your expectations for worship?
Right. And I would personally like to see a couple things, because this was a conversation that was left on the table from our last meeting, was that that this be completed by every single member of council and every single one of our staff. And if someone has completed training already, that they must supply a certificate. And I think that we talked about a certain period of time that they must supply that by. I think, did we say a year?
September 1st?
Or September 1st, right, yes, September 1st, so that we could align it with, so if I would really love to say that our entire staff and our organization is reconciliation trained, so that when the date comes up in September that we can, I would really love that for our community to say that.
Yeah, I would be.
And I think it's reasonable.
I think it would set the tone for that whole celebration if we could say that our full council and all our staff have been certified with training, so.
Yeah, so I guess one of the qualifications that I'm hearing is that it's some sort of reconciliation that provides some sort of certification or certificate of completion or something like that, where it's a recognized, tangible result from it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for sure.
With this, I don't know if council would agree with me, but I would like to maybe see this put into, instead of just going for the approval, just because we haven't put together a budget for this year. I would like this to be part of our budget considerations. Is that reasonable to be?
Did we do
Discussing
any
like
budgeting in the last for 2021?
Yeah, is this
For
on
professional development, I feel like we did, because we
I feel
have
like
it
we
in our
did, 'cause it
strategic
was-
plan,
Yeah.
and it was in there, and it was supposed to get done last budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we just approve it and work it into the budget is probably the best way to do it, because we know we wanna do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a matter of
Yeah.
Just doing
finding
it.
the money to,
I agree. So if we want to throw some motions on the table for
Okay.
I'll make a
approval,
motion that
and-
we approve the funding for this program.
Okay, seconder.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Okay, the motion is carried. And if council would like to entertain another motion of setting a timeline and making this mandatory for all staff,
I move to implement a policy that requires all town of Orange employees and council members to have successfully completed reconciliation training as identified by this organization by September 1st, 2022.
or an equivalent certificate?
Or equivalent certificate, yeah.
Okay, seconder.
I'll second.
Okay, so a motion by Councillor Reese, seconded by Councillor Bashara. All in favor say, sorry, hold on one sec. I'd like to do a recorded vote. I can request that as chair. Okay, so Councillor Bashara,
In favor.
Councillor Guthrie, in favor. Okay, Councillor McPhail.
In favor.
Okay, Councillor Erdisky,
In favor?
Councillor
In
Reese,
favor.
and I'm also in favor. Okay, excellent. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate that one. And thanks, Brianna, for doing that research for us.
No worries.
Okay, we move on to town representative for the Chamber of Commerce report. And I will speak a little bit on this first, before I pass the chair back to you, Brianna, just so that I can provide a little more information to council. So I was placed as the representative for the town of Orange. However, the town used to have a voting power, I guess, used to have a voting seat at that table, and then we were essentially pushed to an advisory role. And it's been, I would say, it's the Chamber of Commerce struggled until there was another president, who was Councillor Clausen,
to get the chamber going. And I have not attended those meetings because I just felt it was no different than getting the minutes to those meetings. So I personally don't believe that council should have a seat at that table at all. I don't think that we should be mixing that, and I think that the chamber should be running on their own. I also find, I don't know, I run into a little bit of issue that one of our councillors is also the president at that table. So I'm going to open it to that. Brianna, do you want to speak on behalf of this?
Yes, so I did attend a meeting on Tuesday of last week, and I found it to be very beneficial so that I could engage with the chamber just strictly in my position and know what they're up to, and just build relations. And that's, yeah. Is there any questions about what's in my report? But I did find it very informative and a great relationship builder.
I agree that kind of like involving politics in the chamber can be tricky, and I understand, you know, the town wanting to have a relationship with the Chamber of Commerce because of the benefits that can be the mutual benefit, having economic development and the business community connected to the municipality. But I do agree that having an administrative participation with the Chamber of Commerce can offer more benefit and not involve any potential conflicts, and it removes that political affiliation with it. If it was the town of La Ronge Chamber of Commerce, it's one thing, but it's a regional chamber, and I think that, yeah, I agree with the recommendation here, and would support that.
Okay.
Yeah, I strongly support Brianna being on there. I think it's very fitting for her, you know, given what she's doing for the town, to have that connection to the chamber. I also believe that having a councillor on the board or involved is sort of potentially a conflict of interest, because there are going to be times where we have to set policy that might not agree with what their initiatives are. So I think we have to keep the politics aside, and if somebody wants to participate, go to a meeting. I just got asked today to just renew my membership. I may go to the odd meeting, but I'm not in the capacity of a town representative.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that's something we need to discuss with Councillor Clausen, because I strongly believe it's a huge conflict of interest. My only concern about this because if anyone is going to be on there representing the town, I think it's great that we have someone from administration there. However, what I want to be very careful and clear about is that at those meetings, just because we have an economic development officer that we pay and we employ, I want to be very certain that that things aren't being dumped onto you simply because of your role. Yeah, go ahead.
So Brianna and I have gone to a couple of meetings together, and I don't want to say coached, I think that's too strong of a word, but I believe that Brianna is very clear in her head that she represents the town and not the region, and she has already been asked to do regional work, and I would say that I stopped that rather quickly.
Okay, yeah, that's one of my big concerns, because I mean, it'd be great if everyone at that table from the other communities had an economic developer or development officer. Perfect, great, then you could split it. But I just fear that,
you're right.
You know,
you're right, because they do look at her as a dumping ground for all of their projects, and I think Brianna's pretty strong. It's not going to let that happen.
Okay, great.
I'm very clear on my boundaries for Richmond.
Okay.
It's you know, it's always natural for them to try and offload on somebody who thinks that has the capacity to do these things, and we just have to be wary of that. And I'm sure she is, and that's not going to be an issue, I don't think.
Great. Okay.
Lots
is
of
there-
potential benefit.
yeah. All right. So does anyone want a motion?
All right, I'll move the council appoints the economic development coordinator to be the town of La Ronge non-voting representative for the town of La Ronge Chamber of Commerce in an advisory capacity.
I will second that.
Is the mayor, just for clarity, with that motion on the table, is the mayor still an ex officio appointment, or?
I personally would like to be removed, but that's up to if someone wants to motion that.
So may I say
Furthermore.
further to, and further that the mayor ex officio appointment be removed from the board appointments committee? Is that how it works?
For
Is it on this one?
the regional chamber of commerce, from
From the regional chamber of commerce?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
And that we remove the chamber of commerce from our outside boards and committees, council
Great.
appointments.
Great.
Wow, you got that?
I'll watch it later.
Okay.
And so, Councillor McPhail, do you still second that motion?
Yeah, I'll call that friendly.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Okay, the
You
motion.
can't vote conflict, just kidding, I'm
I
kidding.
wonder if I, well,
Say nay to that.
yeah, all opposed say nay. Okay, motion is carried. We move on to the HR downloads, quote and report. Alright, this is coming from Amanda.
Yeah, so this is a program that Heidi's used before in different municipalities that can be really helpful. It kind of manages our overall HR department, if you will. Helps for managing personnel files, performance reviews, and it also comes with free training as well. So if you just scroll down the presentation, you'll see all the trainings that it offers. That can be very beneficial to all of our management team. And then further to that with the personnel, it just helps keep everything up to date. It sends us alerts when things are due, so I think we'll be a lot more efficient. And it also has kind of a policy wizard, so that'll help us, create policies that are, first of all, legal and correct, and give us ideas of what other places are doing too.
So,
I have some questions.
Sure.
So my first question would be, do we not have HR access support through Alma?
Sure, so we do. They're called E2R and they are out of Toronto. It is really helpful for some things. You do have to, it's not as fast. So this one does offer a live thing, so I can call in and get a call back right away with a question. E2R, unfortunately, you do have to book an appointment. So I have to, message their coordinator, get an advisor, schedule an appointment, and then it could be 3 days later. So if it's sensitive with like an offer letter for more of a high profile position, it might not be ready in time. So it's definitely not the fastest solution.
Okay, so I have two more questions. My other one, with all these trainings available, is this like a blanket license that anyone within the organization can access them, or is it
Correct.
limited to a number of seats? Okay.
Correct.
And then my third question, just looking at the cost, so that's a little shy, a few $100s shy of somebody actually getting a certificate in human resource management through SAS Polytech or other online offerings. So has that been taken into consideration into actually getting somebody trained?
Oh, that's
in
how I
HR?
take that one.
I can speak to that, yeah. So
Okay.
this is like having a staff member, it really is.
Okay.
And in one of my previous communities, I did a cost benefit analysis, and at that time, we did have a few legal things that we were dealing with staff. Within 2 weeks, it paid for itself. Yeah.
Because there have been, sorry, just to continue to add, there have been times, where we've had to call our solicitor for advice or to the E2R line waiting 4 days to review an offer letter. Whereas this one would kind of empower me, the one in the position, to complete all that work much faster and accurately as well.
And the training is really key too. So write down, every single person in the organization could take OH&S training, could take, there's just so much training that's involved. And I'm not going to look that good, because if I could probably whip out a policy binder through this in a few weeks, whereas if I had to write everything out and review, much like we did the snow removal, we still have to do that, but what I would do, if the council was so kind as to approve this, I would probably do our policy binder from scratch.
So are these like on demand videotaped, or are they live with a trainer? Is there an additional cost? Are they part of the package? And will council have access to these trainings as a group if we're looking at doing mini trainings at a meeting, for example?
No, yes, and yes.
Okay. All right.
What was the first question?
So no, they're not,
I'm
there's
trying to
not a
figure that out
trainer,
too.
there's not a trainer, so it's on demand,
So,
and yes, council has access.
so the
And no additional
annual or
cost.
biannual fees, you can access any program for no additional cost?
Yeah, that was my question. My other question.
Yeah, so everything there in the proposal is
Because
included with the
You go
membership.
down there and it
Okay.
says download, and and it almost seems like we're paying a base fee and then we're paying on top of that whatever program you access.
No, it's included. It's
Everything,
included.
everything here is included, yeah, so all the trainings, the wizards, all of the personnel management files, all that stuff. And then also the live contact as well.
So
And
we
will
won't
there be
have-
like a manager training plan established using some of these trainings to ensure that all managers have the same skill set?
Well, I'm gonna be onboarded onto it if you approve it, and then we could probably have, a manager Zoom call with the company just to go through it. I know Heidi's quite versed in it as well.
Yeah, so you can have the training and all that for people to learn how to use it, but it's mostly for the training and the policies and that, for the actual help, like when you wanna speak to a live person, that is usually to one or two people that can do it, because otherwise they get it inundated from everybody, well, what happens if I do
Yeah.
this? So it's generally one person, usually would be me or the CAO,
Okay.
who would spearhead that.
So I guess I was thinking, for just as an example, like sitting all the managers in their office, in this room, wherever, and as part of your weekly meeting or whatever. So in January, we're all going to do a 25-minute understanding human rights training together,
Exactly.
right? Like have a training plan for staff.
Yeah, so what the staff would do is they get all of the training that's available, and then whoever's managing, let's say Amanda's managing the program, so they tell Amanda which ones they want, like this is all done through the computer, right? And then as soon as they pick the ones that they want and the time that they have to do it, it gets filed, they get certificates out of it that they can print off, and then it gets all recorded and with their personnel file, which is kept in the cloud. And so everything is recorded, right? And it's all kept together. And then we can pull up somebody's file. So Amanda will be able to pull up anybody's file and say, okay, you're missing your training here. You need training here. So this is going to be the next steps that we take for you.
So we could embed PD into their roles quite easily through this. Okay.
Very just go Councillor Shaw.
Well, it looks like very impressive, there's all kinds of different programming and that looks really good. But I would still, before I'm prepared to spend this kind of money, I'd like to see, because most of the time when you're doing training, it's not, like you say, 3 days. 3 days is not, if you're planning ahead, if it takes you 3 days to get a response, what's 3 days really? You just align yourself for it. But I'd like to see what UMA offers and at what cost.
Can I speak to that, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah.
I just wanted to say with the waiting 3 days, it's not so much as the time, it's also just they're not teaching me anything. So every time I have to wait for them to kind of, advise or write the policy or the offer letter, I'm not really learning from it, if you will, whereas the online on HR downloads, I can compare and build policies through, reviewing a few different ones. So that's the nice part, is it's more of an actual service to us, whereas A2R is kind of, they finish the project and then on to the next thing.
Yeah, so what the other organizations offers compared to HR downloads is if we're asking for a policy from our existing organizations that we're using, they'll show us 1 or 2 samples. This program will show us about 20 samples to choose from.
But when I look at this though, like it says, you've got different categories. And then at the bottom it says contact us for a quote. So obviously there's an additional cost besides the base cost. And so at the end of the day, what are we going to be spending?
Everything here that's labeled is included. There's not.
This is it.
Yeah, it's
So this is the whole package.
That's everything.
That's what it will cost.
yeah, everything's there.
And that's unlimited legal advice.
Considering how much we've spent on lawyers in the last year, I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what I understand here is that this list of training, we could build onboarding packages for new employees.
Yep.
that's lovely.
Mhm.
That honestly, I think pays for it right there.
Thank you.
I understand, having been on the other side of that wall, that there's maybe a need for a bit more.
Onboarding protocol.
Yeah, and just getting we can have staff do online training for the confined spaces on demand, which is great because that means that they can get going right away. Or we can stop bickering about asbestos because we can have asbestos awareness training. It's a really great list. Sorry.
No, that's good. And you know what? Again, with administration, I really appreciate you guys bringing this through.
Yeah.
If you guys need it, and you guys need the tools for it, I'm here to support that. Because I don't do your job, and if you guys feel that this is something that you need, I'm all for it.
Councillor Vettry's just.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Vettry.
Like, I'm curious there too, like it says forklift training. Now, I know for this kind of equipment you need a license. Does this give you the license?
Like the ticket?
Or is it just a rundown?
I don't know unless I drill down into the course.
Yeah, so
Okay. I know the other thing with with UMA as well, we do get, legal advice from them, whenever we want. And then also, Amanda, have you asked them to train you on how to do it, or do they just automatically write the policies for you?
They just write it. So they just, their service is to take what we give them and then they write it and give it back. And then, like I said, aside from the training, it's also helpful that it has all the personnel records electronically. So it, sends alerts if something's missing or if, something's due at a certain time, like a professional development review or review. So I think it'll just help keep things more accurate and up to date.
Because right
Yeah,
now,
I would. There's just one thing I would check on the forklift as equipment, to see what that covers, right? Because I don't want people thinking they've got a license then to operate this equipment unless they're truly certified to operate it.
yeah, just kind of echoing Ryan there. I am looking at the length of the training. So conflict resolution training, 29 minutes doesn't sound right. So I guess can we get like a sample peek, like a sample license access to preview this, maybe via email so that it doesn't hold up the decision, because they seem quite short for what they should be, right? WMIS 45 minutes, usually it's like half a day. Duty to accommodate 33 minutes unless you're just reading legislation. Like it seems very short.
I don't know, maybe they're just that efficient in the way they've distilled the information.
HR 101 training, 27 minutes. I don't know.
I mean, you're likely not getting an HR certificate.
No.
for this,
Right, it's just like an overview.
Yeah.
It must be, right?
Because there's a lot of stuff that you'd have to learn for that and actually get I think you can get a full degree in it, right? So I wouldn't expect someone to go there and then have to go through a 3-hour, that's just not going to happen. So
Great.
The other thing that we could do, this could be tight, but you could sign up for a year, which I believe was $4,500 or something.
Yeah.
And we could work like a bugger to download every single thing that we can and train as fast as we can. But that doesn't give you much time.
I was gonna say too, I think the reason that I wanted to put forward the 2 years right away is just because I feel like after 1 year, we're gonna see how it works with the organization and the filing and everything. And then year 2 is where we're really gonna get the benefit of all those alerts and
Right.
really building their files.
So for storing in the cloud, whose cloud? Our cloud or their cloud? Because if we don't renew the license, do we lose access to the documents?
No, so what I've done in previous times is I actually downloaded onto my hard drive.
Okay.
that's a good point though.
Mhm.
Because that's the memberships. That's how they get you.
Yeah, so I copy all the what I've done previously is I copy all the policies and everything and I build it on my hard drive. As
Just
opposed to
download.
through them.
Okay.
How much of a safety record do they have with their cloud? I know that we've had our own IT and security issues at the town, so knowing maybe the level of security or trustworthiness of their cloud might be a tidbit of information that we could pro-con this with.
We'll go to Councillor Guthrie and then we'll decide what we're doing, whether we're approving it or if we're tabling for further information. Go ahead, Councillor Guthrie.
Yeah, I am agreeing with Councillor Bishar on this one here. I'm kind of wondering, you know, so if we have our employee personnel files out there, you know, are they, you know, stealable from somebody, right?
Hackable.
Yeah, trackable. Could somebody, you know, hack them and get our personnel files?
I mean, I think that's can happen to anybody. I mean, we had it happen to even our own systems. So I think, it's definitely it's a viable question, I think, but no one can guarantee anything 100%. But I would assume, but I would assume that if this is an HR service, they would know how serious to take that. And you have used this service before, correct? Yeah. So I would be happy to go ahead, but I just need a motion on the table for what you guys would like to move forward with. I think we've gone in circles with the discussion.
I'm prepared to move that council approve the purchase and implementation of HR downloads for the duration of 2 years at a cost of $7,452.90.
Could I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Okay, I'm going to open the floor to more questions and comments because it seems that we are not there yet.
I would just simply like to see how it works and the quality of the training. That's I'd like to preview it. Get it licensed.
Is there a preview ability?
I can talk to her.
So that's what I had Nana do, was take the orientation, which they do for free, so you guys could take it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've seen it, like I've seen all the pages, I've seen the different wizards they have.
And you do that on the phone with them, and then they go into your computer and you do it together.
Is that something that any of the councillors would like to do?
See, I'm prepared to trust somebody that's used it for a few years in an organization and been successful. And has that organization continued on with their...
As far as I know, I don't phone them to check up on them.
Yeah,
well, it's not an issue of trust. It's just like, is this product worth $7,000? I would much rather have
for 2 years.
an HR person, even if it's a part-time HR person, right?
Well, you can't buy
No, I know.
even a
but
consultant for
you can
$4,000
buy
a year.
the education for them, though, right?
Yeah, but our staff here have enough to do that I don't think we have the ability to put another duty on our staff.
So I can tell you that in one of the towns that I was an intern at, their HR consultant was $150 an hour.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's pricey.
HR's not cheap.
Yeah, my position is I won't support it until I see some kind of a report or some kind of an offering from WEMA in writing, something that we can compare to. But if council supports it, then that's fine.
Okay, so there is a motion on the table, so we'll see where that goes. All in favor of the motion on the table, which is to approve the purchase and implementation of HR downloads for the 2 years at $74.52.90. All in favor say aye. Aye. And all opposed say nay.
Nay.
Okay, so the motion is defeated. So, councillors, if you have another motion you'd like to throw on the table.
I would like to see, I move to just have a preview sample, a link sent that we can just click on and browse through and go from there.
Okay. Seconder?
I'll second that.
Okay, just so I'm clear, who would want that link? Councillor Reese?
Yeah.
Councillor Guthrie?
Sorry to cut in. I don't know if there's a link, because I specifically had like an appointment with him.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he did it over the phone,
Okay.
and then he sent me a link to like look at his screen, and then we talked.
Okay,
So I can put him in touch with you, but
for sure.
is that something you'd all like to do?
I don't have time for that.
Like, I want to look at it for like 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, I will know.
Okay.
Right?
It's like a half an hour presentation.
I just need 5 minutes.
Okay.
Honestly, to
Okay.
scroll through.
Okay, so all in favor say aye.
Or you know what? I might just go on their website and look. I don't know.
Okay.
Right? Like,
Sorry, just calling the question. All in favor say aye.
I.
All opposed say nay.
Nay.
Nay. Okay, the motion is defeated. So, any other motions, or we're going to motion to table it when we have a seventh councillor here?
Can we table it until we all have a chance to do like a quick review and then just email back? Cause I know it's probably an answer that's wanted in a timely manner.
That's what your motion was.
Yeah, that's what the motion was to be.
Okay.
So we table it until, if you're asking administration to supply, I guess. but
Yeah, cause it says here you can download for free today to get a sample, sneak peek.
Yeah, so we can table it, maybe that's just something that you can do on your own.
Yeah, like I can probably do it by the end of the meeting, you know what I mean?
Okay, alright, well, we're, so just, we'll motion to table to the next meeting. But I need that from somebody ahead of me.
When is the next meeting? Like I don't want to delay productivity.
February the 8th.
Okay, well, I guess we'll table it till February the 8th.
Okay, do I have a seconder?
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All
Aye.
opposed say nay. Okay, the motion's tabled. We move on to 6.1.7, which is the Community Rink Affordability Grant for CRAG, the eligibility information. Connor, you're on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Look at those amazing northern lights. Cool. All right.
The purpose of this report was just to inform council that the town applied for a $5,000 grant through SPRA, and we were successful with receiving that grant for general operation of the Uniplex for both of our ice sheets. Does anyone have any questions?
No questions. Thank you for applying for that. So that's really great. This is just a receive and file.
I'll move to receive and file.
Seconder?
I'll second that.
So motion by Councilor Bashar, seconded by Councilor Reese. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Okay, the motion's carried. We move on to the municipal grants to community grants policy. Go ahead, Mr. Tessier.
Thank you. So just a few updates to this grant policy. Some are just semantics regarding change of role title, for example, from recreation facility operation manager to community service manager. Two of the most significant changes to this grant policy were suggesting that we move from from 2 intakes a year to 1 intake a year, and pushing the intake date back 2 weeks, so it would be the 3rd Wednesday in March rather than the 1st. The other significant change here would be that the town would be awarding 100% of the funds to the successful grant applicants rather than 75% reviewing the follow-up report and then issuing the 25%. Does anyone have any questions about the changes?
Yeah, sorry, go.
Yeah, no, I was just curious of why the move to a one intake a year instead of 2 intakes.
Moving to 1 intake a year will help us stay aligned with our fiscal year, whereas what we were seeing with the previous way it was set up is that the second intake that was awarded in October and November was spilling over into the following year, and so having the 1 intake shifted to March and 2 weeks later than it initially was allows for better tracking and making sure that we keep it within the fiscal year.
What's the risk of disadvantaging smaller, less high capacity community groups that this is supposed to target by only having 1 intake? Because I'm thinking of some of the more seasonal community group and events that this was kind of targeted towards, and they're not necessarily active to have this on their radar at that time of year. So I'm just wondering how we might be able to avoid disadvantaging certain groups.
Right, so for example, if they were prepared to submit a grant proposal for October and now we're asking them to submit it for March.
Yeah.
That's a good question. By pushing back 2 weeks, we're hoping that is enough notice to those groups that would be planning to submit theirs for October. And this would help with the administration side of things on our end to ensure that the grants are followed through with.
Subsequent to that question, what is the communication plan to get the information about the change in intakes and date and things like that? Are we going to go whole hog on social media, radio, and just blast all of our community network with information? and send out a big e-blast?
Yes, so with council's approval for these changes, we would be making our community aware of this by the end of the week through all the channels that we have available, especially exactly what you noted earlier, Councillor Bashar, that there may be some who are prepared to submit an application in October and now we're asking them for March, and that would require them to get their ducks in a line, so to speak, sooner than they would have anticipated. So we would be making every effort possible to notify the community of this granted council's approval tonight.
So I actually disagree with the one intake, particularly because of the nature of our communities and the transient nature of it. Because if I'm someone that moves into the community just after the deadline, and I'm someone who is gung-ho to get things going or start things, I think it puts it at a huge disadvantage. I really liked the 2 intake. I just don't think that we did an adequate job of communicating it to the groups that need this. So for me, I can't support going to a single intake because I just think it goes against what this was sort of built for. And my second question for you is, if the full amount is not distributed, are we carrying it over to the next budget season, or is it just a flat 42? If we don't use it, we don't use it, and so that's just my question.
Yeah, currently, to my understanding, we would not be carrying it over, and it would be the flat 42 every year.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions about the policy?
Maybe, is there a third option for this if the intake dates currently don't work with the fiscal year and there seems to be rollover carryover? Is there a way that we can adjust 2 intakes to be better aligned with our fiscal year?
Yeah, there would be a third option. I mean, we could have the first intake due on January 1st and the second intake due exactly 6 months after that, and having a deadline for spending that second intake amount by the end of that year. That would be a feasible option.
And that's something that I would support.
I would support that as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I'll put a motion on the table then to direct administration to revise the municipal grants policy to align better with the fiscal year by having 2 intake dates of January 1 and July 1. Am I getting that right? Yeah.
Okay, seconder?
I'll second that.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Bashar, seconded by Councillor Reese. Any further questions, comments, concerns?
I do have a comment. If we do move to update this policy with January 1st and July 1st, then we've missed January 1st at this point. So I would suggest for this year, we stick with the 3rd Wednesday of March, and then the second intake being July 1st, like we was motioned.
Sounds good.
All right, so I'll add that as an amendment to my motion with the adjustments for this fiscal year.
I think we've already passed the first date, so I think we pretty much have to move it forward for this year.
So, I don't know, Mr. Policy over there, Jordan, Councillor McPhail, how do I properly put that in my motion?
I mean, officially, since we follow Robert's Rules of Order, I think you just have to make an amendment once it's been moved and seconded.
Okay, so
Then we move an amendment.
I'll move an amendment for this fiscal year as described by Mr. Tessier.
Okay, we have a seconder for the amendment.
I'll second the amendment.
Okay, so all in favor of the amendment as presented by Councillor Bashara, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay, so the
Acceptable with the original motion.
that's what I was gonna go to. So the motion now reads that we will go ahead as planned for intake of. Sorry, remind me what that date is. March.
January 1 and July.
3rd Wednesday.
Sorry, what's the intake in March? Sorry.
So before I suggested any changes, it was the 1st Wednesday of March.
Yeah.
I'm suggesting the third Wednesday of March, so being March 16th for the year,
Right.
for this year.
Okay.
And we would stick with July 1st for this year as well.
Correct, and that's what the amendment is. Okay, I just wanted to just confirm the dates. So that has been motioned and seconded, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion's carried. Thank you, Connor. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, I'm way down the bottom. Okay, we'll move on to the building and development report, which is coming from Mr. Bender.
Point of order, did we already deal with the community rent affordability grant?
Yeah.
Yes.
Receive
Yeah.
and file.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Mr. Bender, are you on the line? Oh, there you are. I think you're just muted. And
Down here.
okay, perfect. You'd like to just highlight anything additional to this? Just seems like we're quite different from previous years, hey?
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe the price of lumber, but yeah, permits are definitely down this year and less than last year, but development's kind of the same. We've only been tracking for the past 2 years, but that's kind of on par, but definitely building was down this past year.
Okay, so this is just a file and report as presented.
I move to file and report, file and receive the report as presented.
Seconder?
I'll second that.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Reese, seconded by Councillor Hibisky. All in favor? Or do you have
I just have like a question for Mr. Bender there. Mr. Bender, would you be prepared to maybe come forward with a set of recommendations that might address ways to increase the level of building that is happening in the town, or advance, encourage some development in this community?
I know in the past we've did that incentives over in Robertson Drive area where we discounted, try to sell the lots, right? Offering the discounted of, I think it was $20,000 off the sale price, as well as offering some tax incentives. There's some things that council could look like that. I'm not too sure why construction was down this year, but I don't know.
Well,
we haven't had a new house built in a little while, but
Okay.
don't know if it's COVID really, or the price of lumber has increased. I have heard that people chose not to do their building because of the price of lumber has doubled.
Like perhaps.
Councillor Tiski could me chime in.
That's right.
I don't think it's due to, lack of town policies or anything like that. It has a lot to do with the price of materials now and the cost of construction. And you're still going to see, we've seen a couple of commercial developments happen, and those are, driven by economic reasons, by a business plan, as opposed to, so the cost of building isn't going to drive them away. That's, they need to be in place. But it'll come around.
I think that perhaps the town is due, just in like looking at this, that we might be due for a review of our policies and bylaws and things like that. So it's just kind of a note of interest,
Right.
In this conversation.
And it's a good note, if I may, Your Worship. Maybe we could ask our economic development coordinator and our Robbie, what is your title? I'm sorry.
Elected official bylaw enforcement officer.
Perfect, thank you. To maybe take a further look at possibilities and anchor themselves in our economic development and tourism section of the strategic plan. Specifically, maybe starting maybe with looking at an update at where our highway economic corridor is at, because we haven't had an update for some time, and then looking at ways of incentivizing development in the residential zone as well.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see an increase in activity in the housing side. There's a federal program out. We had a presentation, or to purchase land. That's there's initiatives out there for professional housing. The RCMP and education. So it's around the corner. I wouldn't get too excited about trying to create anything.
But I think at the same time we do need to see some movement on some of these pieces of our strategic plan, right? did speak of, you know, looking at the economic development and tourism, the downtown revitalization, and maybe this is an opportunity to do so. It is winter, slower months, so maybe some things could be catalyzed for the spring, summer.
I'll just point out an interesting kind of factoid or point of information about like some of the permits issued. If you look in 2020, one discretionary use permit was issued. In 2021, 5. In 2020, 15 permitted use were issued, and 2021 only 5. So like from a planning perspective, for me, that looks like we have way too many discretionary uses and not enough permitted uses, because people are trending towards going for discretionary uses. So how can we make them more permissive and remove that red tape? But that's just a point of interest. I'm sorry, we have a motion on the table, so I'm not.
I mean, it's a very good point of interest to bring up, because I think that we need to look at it and assess. But sorry, go ahead, Mr. Bender.
I was just gonna add, you know, looking at the past sales on Robertson Drive area, the past few land sales that we've discounted, we provided discount $20,000 discount off the listing price. Maybe just re-advertising that area to possibly new development. But that may be something we could look at right away. And we re-incentivize those land sales for the residential area.
Yeah, something of consideration, and yeah, I'll just leave it at that, because there's something. Yeah.
Can we note that for later?
We will call the question. Yes. All in favor to receive and file a report, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Okay, the motion's carried. Thank you, Mr. Bender. Appreciate that. Okay, we move on to administrator bond requirements. This is a verbal report from Heidi.
Okay, super quick. It's a legal requirement that in the month of January we present council with our bond, and
Ta-da. There we have it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So just receiving and file.
So I will move to receive and file the administrator's bond requirement for 2022.
And is that seconded by Councillor Vettery? Thank you. So motion by Councillor Rees, seconded by Councillor Vettery. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion's carried. And we move on to board revision appointment report. Okay, so this is coming from Amanda. Would you like to speak on behalf of this?
Okay, I'll go.
Okay.
It's a statutory requirement that we appoint a board of revision. We've been doing it every year, so we do it in conjunction with their launch.
Excellent.
I was gonna say that.
Okay. I would like to move that council appoint Secretary Donna Olson, board members John Schisler, George Padaychuk, Jack South, as the Town of LaRange Board of Revision.
I'll second that.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Rees, seconded by Councillor Hiskey. Any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, we'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Okay, the motion is carried. Move on to 2020 tax arrears, as presented in a report for Northern Municipalities Act Section 296. I guess, would you like to speak on behalf of Darian, who's presented this?
Sure. Again, it's a statutory requirement that we move on issuing proceed with tax service. We don't have a choice, basically.
Right.
This list is pretty short, eh?
That's a substantial amount.
It's a substantial amount, but it's knocked down a lot from last year.
Yeah, it seems a lot shorter than last year.
Yeah.
Do we know any comparables with that? Not that it really honestly matters, but I feel like last year it was like a really long.
Yeah.
Well, it had fallen really far behind, I think.
Yeah, and I think some people just caught up. So I would like to move that we proceed with tax e-service. That's read, I imagine, not e-service. Okay, e-service.
Do I have a seconder? Okay, Councillor Vettery. Motion by Councillor Rees, seconded by Councillor Vettery. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Okay, the motion is carried. We move on to the SUMA resolutions as presented in the drafts. And I believe, was this the work of you and Councillor Clausen?
Actually, no, I think Heidi just went with what we gave her and built it from there, so no credit here.
Okay, were you guys still planning on meeting?
I don't, if this gets approved, I don't feel that we need to, unless there's some changes that council feels are necessary, then I think, then at that point in time, we may.
Okay, so I think, I'll let you speak to this, because I think that there is a valid concern, right, about which ones we want to prioritize, I think, right? And an email from Councillor Clausen, just so I'm clear on this, Heidi, is he stating the K-9 unit is the one that he sees is the most important?
No, not the most important. I've put it in with another one, with another resolution, and he wants us to separate it out.
Oh, I see, okay.
Or to put more emphasis on it.
Got it. Okay, so, and are they separated here?
No, they're together.
Okay, go ahead.
I think based on what our community's experienced just very recently, I think addressing the Young Offenders Act, I think, is something that we should do on behalf of the community, because when you get into major crimes, I think it's not something that you should be able to hide behind the Young Offenders Act. You should be treated as an adult. It's an adult crime, and I think moving on that, we can still move on the other one. But I think, given what's happened in the community, I think could be an appropriate time to bring that forward.
Recent and not so recent history, I think that one addresses.
Mm-hmm. So your recommendation is that we prioritize it in the order, right? That we
just in case they want us to drop any, they probably won't.
Okay.
If they did, then it might be too late if you guys don't decide that now.
Got it. So is there essentially based on your recommendation, where do you see these being split? So obviously number 2, it would just be the Young Offenders Act, right?
Separate,
right.
Yeah.
So we could do a separate motion under two for K-9 unit, but which would be fine. But in speaking with Sergeant Dean, Staff Sergeant Dean, that he thought that the resolutions were good the way that they were, but he was also hugely in favor of getting a K-9 unit here. But he said it's not going to be easy.
Yeah. No, that's. No.
But he said he'd really like it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I think including it as a note and a notion, but knowing how difficult that could be, I think focusing on the bigger picture of it is.
Because the preamble is going to be the same regardless.
Yeah.
I would also say that instead of getting a little bit political by putting political names, you could put, it's been a long-standing request, as opposed to only, like you have, therefore be it resolved, assume or request the provincial and federal government to revisit the Youth Criminal Justice Act and the Young Offender Act to increase the severity of punishment crimes from young offenders and revisit the requests that are long-standing. Instead of putting, the 2 political names, it's been a long-standing issue because it's been requested years ago.
Yeah, whatever council wants. The reason that the names are in there is because that's an extremely well-noted and debated document.
Mm-hmm. So I know we discussed about the money piece, right? Are we as a municipality on the hook for the raise and the back pay? Is that something we need to advocate for?
Discussing
for the enhanced policing?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we discussed that in camera.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, no, fair.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Good.
As long as we haven't forgotten.
Yeah. I'm just going to write that down. Just so
I would be prepared to support putting the number 2 resolution as written as our number 1 priority resolution to forward to SUMA. I'm quite fine with leaving in the reference to the 1998 requests in its specificity, because I think this is political.
Yeah, I'm not prepared to support number 2. I am definitely 1000% to support number 1.
Which version?
Which version?
Yeah, well, that's the other piece, right? I would say that therefore be resolved that SUMA advocate the government of Saskatchewan, including Honorable Christine Tell, to enforce enhanced policing agreements and provide additional police officers for outlying areas.
So you see that as priority number 1?
Yeah, I do, right? Because if we have an emergency in Hull Lake, which is a half an hour to 45-minute drive, depending on speed, it is officers from L'Orange that respond. And if it's a major incident and they all respond, who's left in town? 1 or 2 officers?
Councillor Diskey, which one did you have a preference for priority? And just to confirm, your number 2 as presented though, right?
Number 2 is presented.
Councillor Budgetary, Councillor McPhail, do you guys have a preference on which one should receive preference?
2 for me.
Sorry, say that again?
2.
And as presented in full?
Yes.
Okay. Councillor McPhail, do you have a preference for priority?
I would agree with Councillor Riz on the second part of the number 1.
Okay. And Councillor Diskey, what is your preference?
We aren't limited to one resolution, aren't we?
We're not limited, but we need in preference, just so that
No, I just
in priority.
pointing that out.
Yeah, they're both important, but
I've been at conventions where Town of Shelburne had about 6 resolutions in, and there's been, their council did a lot of brainstorming, and a lot of some of them were more local, but some were actually benefit other communities as well.
So do you have a priority?
I'd say just because of the timing, the Young Offenders Act, it's quite important. It's a good time for us to send that message out because of what happened here.
Okay. And as an in full is written here, correct? Okay.
But almost equally important is the staffing issues that we have here.
I think the reason I put, just as a point of interest, the reason I put the number 2 as the first one, it's really important, but it's a big one. And if it's something that they want to skip to the next one because they're like, nah, it still leaves the enhanced policing resolution as very important. But it does put that big wicked problem first, which is a bigger piece of legislation versus kind of a policy review and enforcement.
yeah, but with disclosing names from the Young Offenders Act and changing that is a much harder feat than having additional police officers.
Yeah, that's why it's priority. Like, here, we're going to give you a kick in the pants. This is the big wicked issue we want you to deal with. But hey, if you're not going to deal with that, you better deal with this one.
Due to privacy laws, it's,
To me, the second most important is the fact that we've had an enhanced policing agreement we've been paying for, and there's been no oversight, if you will, to make sure that we're living by the letter of that agreement. And so I think we need to put that across as the minister needs to sometimes oversee and make sure that, otherwise we should be getting some money back. Like, we really haven't gotten, we're almost into year 3 now, and we haven't got our money's worth out of that, $1.2 million contract for 3 years. That's a lot of money for our community, and nobody's done oversight on that.
Yeah, and it's what we're gonna talk about that in camera as well, a little bit deeper. So I've got that on here. So number 2 by straw vote is the preference for council, and then what I need to know now is number 1. How are we wording it?
I like A or B or C, because we have or and, or I guess. I like
all of it. you could ditch
The last two paragraphs, the after or and or and, I'm really good with. I think the first one isn't necessary for the specificity because I think it really kind of drills down to say enforce the enhanced policing agreements and provide additional police officers because we know that that's the issue, that our officers are being pulled away.
Yeah. We need that additional personnel, like desperately.
Okay, so what is your preference for how that first one's being written?
The last two paragraphs, but not the first, therefore. So whereas,
Yeah,
I don't need the first therefore.
yeah,
After the or and after the or and, I
Okay.
would include.
okay. Councillor Guthrie, what's your preference for how you like the number one resolution presented?
Sorry, I like them all.
Okay,
Perfect, we put them all.
You're good either way?
Yeah.
Okay.
On number one, like, I think, the first sentence doesn't necessarily have to be attached to it. I think where you could start it as, whereas some communities pay for enhanced policing, that basically brings the point of what we're trying to make, with the commitment of 80% expanded policing within them, and then whereas additional resources are provided to municipalities that are used in the surrounding areas. So we're not, they're being used to provide service to enhance the whole area, which is wrong. And then so therefore be resolved that SUMA advocates the provincial government, including the Minister to enforce enhanced policing agreements and develop a policy enforcing RCMP to adhere to the specifications in the contract regarding the allotment amount of time policing occurs within the municipal boundaries. I think that's pretty much spells it out.
okay, so you're saying which part are you keeping and which part are you omitting?
I don't think the first sentence necessarily needs to attach to that. Actually, omit the first sentence and start it at the enhanced policing.
Mm-hmm.
So whereas, therefore, and then the whole rest of it?
Yeah, two whereases and then no therefore.
All the way to the end there? So therefore it's resolved, and then be it resolved that SUMA is like all of it? Okay. And Councillor Reese?
I would be good with whereas, and then that first therefore. Wait, no, not that. The second therefore be it resolved that SUMA advocate Government of Saskatchewan to enforce enhanced policing agreements and provide additional police officers for outlying areas.
Okay, and Councillor McPhail? So sorry, just for clarification, Councillor Reese, so the last two you want in there, or
Yes.
or okay.
The only thing I'd say about that is we're probably one of the few enhanced policing agreements
In the province.
So,
Yeah.
you know, that's where
Yeah.
it may lose some.
Momentum, because there's
Okay.
not of major interest there.
And Councillor McPhail?
The funny thing is that I would say that we should, if we're going with resolution one, put all three of the orders in and just make them further that, because I know once the lawyers at SUMA start to go through it, and I say lawyers as in other councils and people that are at the conventions go through it, it'll be amended probably twice already, and changed up. So I mean, I would say that we should go forward with the first resolution and the order being added to further that.
Give them something to add.
Okay, would you guys be in favor to change the ors to furthermore?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so straw vote is that we go whereas, we remove the therefore for the SUMA advocate Government of Saskatchewan, and then we keep the following two but go furthermore. Okay, does that make sense?
So you're keeping the whole thing and turning it into furthers.
Furthermore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but removing the SUMA advocate Government of Saskatchewan.
This one?
Yes, with
Okay, I
Maybe
did.
Christine's helping there, yeah.
So where's the therefore then?
Yeah, well, you would start at the second one.
Well, it's not gonna say therefore anymore, it's gonna say furthermore. That one
Yeah,
is-
but what's the resolution then? There's always
You
a
need your first
be it resolved or
Oh,
therefore.
I see what you're saying.
So where's the action that we're requesting?
I see what you're saying. So then does it just bump this up?
You kind of need that paragraph in there.
Okay, cause that's what you removed, so,
I'm fine with leaving it in if everybody is kind of on the, it's just I'm looking at removing superfluous, but if it's not superfluous to everybody, then we can.
Well, a lot of our things are not very concise or precise, and if it's going to get edited, as Jordan mentioned at SUMA, then
Yeah.
there's more words to edit, to
Okay.
take out, less that content we lose.
okay, so
Yeah,
right.
Councillor, are you okay with that?
I'm
yeah?
fine with that,
Okay.
yeah. That's,
Councillor Vetter, are you fine with it there? Okay, so that's straw vote for that, so that will stay in, with furthermore's, edited in there. So, here's what it's going to be. So number 2 will be our priority, and then number 1 will be our second priority, as presented.
And do you want a K-9 unit separate motion, or no?
Nope, I think that everyone
Okay.
was wanting the 2 together,
Okay.
yeah. Okay.
Thank you for writing those.
Yes,
You're welcome.
thank you.
They're,
And so we need a motion on the table.
so, oh, go
Okay,
ahead.
sorry, who was that?
Also move.
Thank you.
okay, I'll second.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Vettery, seconded by Councillor Reese, for number 2 to be priority, number 1 to be our second priority. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Okay, the motion's carried. We move on to 6.1.14, which is the 2021 utility arrears to tax roll. And I do have a question. Oh, I see, 2020, 2020, okay, I just wanted to be sure of that. Anybody have any questions about what's presented here?
Yes. I think we made some change, was it this council, last council? Made some changes to outstanding utility bills, and, cause we changed the policy for apartments, right? So, is this now, if I remember the policy correctly, let me
But
see.
the owner has to pay.
The owner is responsible for the utility bills,
Yes,
that's all rolled out,
yes.
and
And
this
it's
is,
reflected.
okay,
You betcha.
okay. Well,
So I move to accept the letter to residents as presented, to have utility, arrears be added to their tax bill.
No, that's already been done, so.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, we just need to proceed with letters to residents, just
Oh, that-
following the procedure, the policy.
Okay, yeah.
So do you wanna just restate that motion for me?
I retract that motion. So I thought that's the motion we needed. I didn't
No,
know.
we just need just to proceed with letters to residents,
Oh,
that's the first step.
okay. I move to proceed with the letter to the residents.
Seconder?
I'll second it.
Okay, so, motion by Councillor Reese, seconded by Councillor Verdeschi, all in favor say aye. Aye, all opposed say nay, motion is carried. We move on to the airport runway sweeper tender. Thanks for staying on the line, Jim. I'm trying to go as fast as I can. Do you have, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Burr in regards to this, RFQ? No, and Jim, is there any, anything of importance that hasn't been already presented in this report?
I'll just note that ACAP, as you know, that does fund this 100% and it's been approved. But I do have to submit to them justification for our choices on these tenders, and they do not require us to always take the lowest bid. But if we do take a higher bid, we have to justify it. The higher bid, it has to align with the goals of the program, which in a nutshell is basically providing equipment to our airport that enables us to perform airfield maintenance in an efficient, timely, and safe manner. So
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
Any questions for Mr. Burr with this particular?
I would like to make the motion that council award the airport runway sweeper procurement tender in the amount of $330,000. Sorry, $330,032.97, taxes included, to A.B. Schmidt Canada Incorporated upon approval of Transport Canada Airport Capital Assistance Program.
Have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Reese, seconded by Councillor Hudisky. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Okay, motion's carried. We move on to the next tender, which again is for the airport. Anything of major? I mean, I think that these are pretty straightforward as far as your reports are very thorough. So thank you. I appreciate that. Anybody have any questions regarding this tender? Okay, does anyone want a motion?
I move that council award the airport cloud truck procurement tender in the amount of $343,980.12 to A.B. Schmidt Canada upon approval of Transport Canada ACAP.
Have a seconder?
Aye.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Bashar, seconded by Councillor Vetri. All in favor say aye.
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 I had one question.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So you say that you feel based on the criteria that they would actually pick up the extra cost on this one? And if they don't, I guess the question is, are we prepared to pay the 10,000 difference? That's where it would end up?
Yeah, the in this case, the justification for going for the extra $10,000 for the Abby Schmidt quote is easily justifiable with ACAP in my experience, because it will enable us to meet the goals of the program. Like I said already, the extra horsepower, extra torque, the larger plow blade, etc., will help us perform airfield maintenance in a more timely and efficient and safe manner. So it'll align with the goals of the program, and I can't see why they would not approve it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I just want to bring it out because if by any chance that they don't accept it, then I guess do we move to the lowest one, or do we pay the difference? Would be my question to you.
I would recommend that we pay the difference. Like I said, yes, your point is good. There's a remote possibility that would be required.
Okay. Thank you.
But this particular truck would definitely help us to perform airfield maintenance efficiently.
Sorry, and before you call the question again, so Jim, just is there consideration in your budget lines just in case we do have to make up those?
I'll have to make an adjustment. I have submitted to administration my draft, but it's a draft, so
okay.
I could make that. Yeah.
Just a consideration. Okay. Any other questions? And sorry for that, Councillor Hudisky. I was flying through it. So we'll call the question. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The motion is carried. Move on to the airport loader attachment tender award. Does anybody have any questions?
No, I think for this one is actually the lowest one in the proposal.
I'll move the council award the airport loader and attachments tender in the amount of $288,686.58 to EMSCO Holdings upon approval of Transport Canada ACAP.
I will second that.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Bashar, seconded by Councillor Reese. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Okay, the motion is carried. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that. All right, we are moving on to budgetary control. Oh, you're right. I have one more. Sorry, Mr. Burr. Thank you. We have one more. This is the late item that was added to the budget, and I had it here and then I skipped it. So this is the award airport terminal building security cameras RFP. And Jim, is there anything of significance that you'd like to bring to?
Yeah, sure. First of all, just to note that this is a RFP, not an RFQ, it's a proposal, and in the proposal document, it was stated that there was a diagram that included bidders were to propose whatever is required in order to provide the coverage we need. One of the bidders proposed 12 cameras. I did have conversations on the phone with a couple of the other bidders regarding that. Definitely having 12 cameras would provide better coverage. All the bidders are required to provide unit prices so that we can adjust for that if we need to, and that's why the table in front of you has a 10 camera and a 12 camera prices that are adjustment. So and note that Comtech, I've recommended that we award it to Comtech due to the excuse me, I'm just scrolling through my document here. Due to the preference for 10% preference for a local bidder. If you make the calculations, Comtech Innovation is actually the lowest bid. So, and as noted, they have a record of working for us and provided security camera firewall, and I'm told that they're satisfactory, and yeah, it seems to me that that justifies awarding it to them.
I'd like to move that council award the airport terminal building security camera project in the amount of $11,150.88. Taxes included to Comtech Innovation.
Have a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Reese, seconded by Councillor Vettery. Mr. Burr, I do have a question in regards to this company that is going to be putting in these cameras. Has there been any assurance of how and these are going to be installed and how the wiring is going to be installed? And the reason why I ask is because of the history that I've seen. Are the wires going to be, and this is very specific, and I apologize that I'm going to take your time on this. Is that wiring going to be done through conduit, or is it going to be open air?
We won't require conduit because we have suspended ceiling in the airport terminal building, and so all the wiring will be routed through that space above the suspended ceiling.
Okay.
I did have that discussion with this contract.
Okay, and with guarantee for all fire code and everything to be adhered to?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, excellent. That's my only question. Any other questions? Okay, we'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. The motion is carried. Thank you, Jen. Appreciate it. Okay, we move on to Budgetary Control Report 7.1. Does anybody have any questions as what is presented?
Yes, I do on one.
7.1 or 7.2? He's looking at budgetary control, not looking at checks.
You're dealing with all the financial or just one?
We create two separate, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll start with 7.1 and then we'll go down.
No questions on that one. I move that we accept and receive for filing purposes the budgetary report or budgetary control report as presented.
Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Reese, seconded by Councillor Vettery. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Okay, we're gonna do that more. We don't have what's the word I'm looking for? I've only got three and three, so I'm gonna call the question again. All in favor for the motion to receive and file this report say aye. Aye. Perfect, thank you. All opposed say nay. Motion is carried. We move to 7.2, which is a list of accounts for approval. Councillor Herdisky, any question there?
Yeah, I have one question on 18627.
18627.
It's on page 8.
Okay. What's your question?
I guess my question is, why are we paying that amount of money when we could have had that agreement done at Yuma for no cost?
I don't think that this is, no, that this is her payment
This is contract agreement.
as per the contract agreement, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's her payment.
Pardon me?
It's her payment. It's not to draft the agreement. That's what her monthly payment is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there was no agreement. We did it all ourselves.
So
Yeah.
I thought maybe, because it says contract agreement, I thought maybe it was for drafting up the agreement. I thought, holy crap, this way too much money.
No, I'm assuming that's as just the way that it's lined is that it's
Okay.
as acting per the agreement and contract.
Okay, my apology. I
Nope.
just wanted to get clarification on that.
And maybe the name of the company threw you off. That's the name of the company. It's very inventive, as you can see.
Okay, any other questions in there? Alright, just need a resolution, please.
I move to accept the list of accounts for approvals, also known as chest registry. I move to receive and file.
Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Second.
Alright, so moved by Councillor Reese, seconded by Councillor Bashara. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Okay, the motion is carried. Move to the last one, which is bank reconciliation.
I'll make a motion to receive and file the bank reconciliation.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion is carried. Okay, we move on to bylaws. The discretionary use for the home-based business and change of zoning report from Mr. Bender.
Hello.
Hello. Go ahead, Mr. Bender.
I guess my report is presented. If you have any questions, let me know. But basically, we have to pass the zoning amendment, first and second reading, second and third reading of the zoning amendment to rezone from contract zoning to R1 residential. And if we do pass it and make the motion, then we could then entertain the discretionary use for the home-based business.
Okay, do we need unanimous? No, okay.
No.
Just wanted to be sure of that. Okay. Go.
Since the time of our first reading, I was given a set of prints for this particular project, so I will declare conflict and I will leave.
Okay.
I would like to move that bylaw. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Joe.
Run faster is what she's saying.
Let me get out of here.
I see you're super fast business-wise, so I just thought you transferred over. Should we shut the door?
Yeah.
I would like to move that bylaw 655-21, being a bylaw to rezone lot 1, block 8, plan 102-209-633 from contract zoning to R1 low density residential, be amended to bylaw to amend bylaw 572-16, known as the zoning bylaw, be read a second time.
I'll second.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Reese, seconded by Councillor Bashara. Does anybody have any comments or any further discussion? Alright, all in favor say aye.
Okay.
Aye.
I also move that
Oh,
bylaw.
sorry, hold on. As all opposed say nay. Motion is carried. Sorry, go ahead.
I move that bylaw 655-21, being a bylaw to rezone lot 1, block 8, plan 102-209-633 from contract zoning to R1 low density residential, to amend bylaw 572-16, known as the zoning bylaw, be read a third time.
Okay, any further discussion about that? Alright, we'll call the question. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, all opposed say nay. Motion's carried.
I move that having completed the discretionary use process for a home-based business in an R1 low-density residential zoning district on lot 1, block 8, plan number 102-209-633, the application for said use be approved for the current calendar year and conditional to continued compliance with section 4.15 of bylaw 572-16.
Seconder?
I'll
Second.
Alright, so, motion by Councillor Reese, seconded by Councillor Bashara, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Okay, the motion's carried. Thanks, Robbie, that's, oh wait, hold on here.
Do we need to read
Thank
the
you.
additional motion there, that 9.13? Like the final consideration? Or, yeah, I think we
That
did.
is the final consideration.
What was it? There's a differentiation here between third reading and final consideration. Is there a
Well,
difference?
there's final reading to amend the bylaw, and then this
Okay.
is the discretionary use part of it, so one has to do with like how it's zoned, and the other one has to do
Okay.
with the use he's putting in there.
Right, so we're good, right, with the ones that we're.
He is
Okay.
ready to be issued his permits.
Perfect.
Okay, so you're good to go, Robbie. Okay.
Okay, alright, we move on to new business and discussion, oh, thank you.
Good job, Robbie.
Deputy Mayor? We can leave that wide open.
Yeah, please do.
We need to adjust our thermostat on Tuesday nights.
Okay, we move on to new business and discussion items, and a concern of service. An email has been sent to Councillor Vettery, dated January 6th, 2022, regarding the service from NAR, that the town, employs, I guess, for lack of better terms, for our services. Contracts, thank you, that's a much better way to say it. And Councillor Vettery, do you want to speak a little bit about this, since it was sent to you?
Yeah, they talked to me about the concern, and they said they put it in an email and sent it off to me, and asked if I could, bring it to council, and I said, yeah, absolutely. So the person was on their way to work. They found a dog outside their house. They let it in. They got a phone call. They made a phone call. At 10:56, as everybody can see. And they said they'd see what they can do at 11:13. She phoned back to follow up. There was no answer. At 11:17, she received a text saying she's on another call. At 11:22, I asked again about the plan. I was unable to stay home with the dog. 11:30, received a text saying she will be on her way shortly. And 11:37, she left the dog outside the house. The person wasn't happy about the time it takes for somebody to get over there. So looks like that's their complaint. Is there a set time that NAR has to get over there to retrieve the dog?
Not that I know of.
There have been concerns reported by residents repeatedly about the level of service NAR is providing, and I wonder if that's just a miscommunication piece between what the expectation is and what the reality is. I can understand the frustration this resident felt because they would have been late for work, but at the same time, it's not an obscene amount of time. I know of other residents that have had to wait much longer, which doesn't justify this, but maybe it is a conversation we need to have with NAR.
So I'd like to just say one thing to that, if I could, before. It was like -40 or whatever out, and that was the person's concern, right? Because they're throwing this dog back outside. They don't know if the dog's going to wander off and freeze somewhere to death, right? So they literally put an animal outside when people are screaming at other residents, bring your dog inside, don't be a jerk.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, we have to consider, this is the same kind of conversation we have to have about our snow response. We contract a nonprofit organization that's run by volunteers and has one, maybe two paid employees. The contract amount that we enter into with this group is barely part-time, and this person is on call at a lot. And stray dogs don't have a set time that they're going to be wandering. It does take a community on top of this organization, but if we have concerns about our level of service within our contract with this organization, then we need to either review the contract and the amount of subsidy, or perhaps engage our own bylaw staff, which I don't know if we want to do that again, to supplement some of the response time, because the animal care officer I know responds any time of the day. She'll be out there picking up animals if she receives a call, as long as she is able to and isn't on a very justified day off. So I'll be the first one to come to the defense of this organization, because I know how hard they all work. And so a 40-minute response time in -40 weather sucks. It's not ideal at all, and I know that, but she, in all likelihood, was halfway across another community, picking up dogs there and getting them settled in the pound, or bandaging wounds, or whatever it might be, right? So I look at the bigger picture, and it's not ideal for us to have stray dogs, but let's think of how grateful we should all be for having so few stray dogs compared to a few years ago, and then take the conversation as to where we want to go with this, noting the concerns and finding solutions.
I think if you looked at our agreement, I think they're supposed to be providing service every day of the week. Weekends, they're not available. Like, dogs are large on weekends, and if you looked at the contract, it's 7 days a week. And I know that they don't answer the phone on weekends, because we end up getting a lot of calls from people that have animals in situations, and I think I know it's difficult. They have the person that's doing the pickup right now works somewhere else, so can't just drop everything, and that's where the time lapse. But I think they need to be reminded about that, or just the fact that we've got a complaint. I think that should be forwarded to them, and they need to be reminded to try and make it the best effort to respond quicker, especially in the winter time.
So the contract actually reads to be available 12 hours per day, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., including weekends and holidays, and any situations deemed as emergent by NAR and or the town of Orange is sort of the level of service. And this contract would have expired at the end of December, so I think it is up for renewal, is it not?
Mm-hmm. So something that we need to look into and administer, because I'm not aware of a request for renewal yet, but
that should be on us too.
Yeah, oh for sure, 100%. Yeah.
Well, and this is the thing, is if we don't want to, if we're not happy with the contract, then we are, as a municipality, we're obligated to provide animal control, so then we're going to have to send our own staff member out there to provide that level of service. I don't know if our staff member is really keen on taking their municipal vehicle home and then being available after hours to be able to pick up animals.
I think they should. I think they know what the agreement they signed, and
yeah.
So I would say that maybe they need to be reminded that they need to be.
I don't think they don't know what they've signed up for.
All I'm saying is we're paying for a service, and we need to be getting what we're paying for.
Yeah, and we're paying $30,000 for 12 months is what we're paying.
Councillor Gary?
Is NAR in contract with Air Launch?
No. Not that I'm aware of, no.
No? So they're not going over there to pick up stray dogs?
My understanding of the agreement there is NAR has agreements either sometime, like with other communities, to either accept dogs on a per dog fee basis, or they don't have agreements to do that kind of thing, so.
And I think if I'm correct, that they do have that, but then some have not paid or won't pay.
Well, there's certain communities that won't, that they have their own animal control and they implement that, and sometimes NAR, out of duty of care, they will take animals
they not only do dog control, they actually do what they call frontline rescuing. And, you know, where you get dogs that are abandoned or stray, they'll pick them up and then they'll get them adopted out to an adoption agency down in Saskatoon or where they've got, you know, a number of places where they send animals
Yeah,
to.
and their community administration covers the cost for that. They pay an employee.
Councillor Better?
So in a situation where there's one in Air Launch and there's one in Low Launch gets priority then?
So I think
So if they're out to a phone call that they got one in Air Launch and they get a phone call saying they gotta come, there's one in Little Launch, they'll turn around and come back to the launch?
yeah, and
I
those
don't
are
know how they prioritize.
those are things that we should probably discuss in our contract up for renewal. And I think we can. How I see this moving forward is that, you know, this concern gets forwarded to NAR, and then we also look at the renewal contract and those specific questions.
Yeah, I think it's worth having a frank discussion between administration and the organization to say, can you meet these levels, like this level of service, or what's reasonable, and figure out the best agreement to come to, if there is one to come to, that meets the mutual needs. Because again, it's a nonprofit organization run mostly by volunteers, and we therefore don't have to pay an FTE to have that level of animal control. So
I guess the only thing I could add to that is, in this case, it was an innocent dog that was freezing.
Yeah.
What if it was an aggressive dog and it waited 45 minutes to respond to that?
well, and that's the thing, is that that animal will have to run loose in the cold. Animals will run loose in the cold. We don't want them to. And sometimes there's great people in this community that step up and take those dogs in or try and get control of the aggressive ones, but it's all kind of a little difficult to do, whether we're an organization set up for it or not. And I know you have personal experience in that field. So
I guess the question would be, is there something in our policy that I don't think it refers to any time length in response, and maybe that's something that can be discussed with NAR, is to,
and maybe that
try
comes
to
at a
agree
cost.
on what an acceptable call out time is. You know, to respond, so that if we do get a complaint from a resident, well, we could say, well, this is our guideline, you've got to respond within 30 minutes or whatever.
And what is that of value to us when it comes to the cost?
Right.
So I think we can direct administration. I think you're taking on what you got. So
Yeah.
does anybody have any other things that they want to?
I just want to add that I'm aware that residents will sometimes contact something called Northern Hope Dog Rescue. I don't even know if this is the right one that I'm looking at, but they'll bypass NAR. So maybe we need to look at some partnership building. Maybe that's something the economic development officer or someone.
What was the name of that?
Northern Hope Dog Rescue.
NAR has an entire network in Alberta, BC.
Okay,
and
perfect.
Yeah, they actually have an extensive network.
Right.
That's how we get so many dogs out.
Okay, yeah. See,
Yeah.
And I don't know these things, and I know
Yeah.
that Councillor Hordisky and his
Yeah.
wife run a private dog rescue ensemble that they cost out of their own pocket, right? So maybe we need to look at some partnership building, right?
Okay. Is there any other discussions?
Ryan, I guess thank the resident for their concern, sharing their concern.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you.
Oh, not a problem. They were concerned. Yeah, and I want to make sure we're getting the quality of service, you know. Especially once again, we're giving this, we're supporting, you know, two communities here, because I know the band has their own dog enforcement. So I'd like to see, you know, maybe if NAR has, you know, went to Air Ronge and said, you know, for the service we need this much.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So we'll head into camera.
I'd like to request a 5-minute recess.
Let's go into camera first.
Okay,
where's the motion?
I just need one.
I know, I'm going to read it because I found it from a previous one. The council go into a closed meeting subject to 13823 of the Northern Municipal Municipality Act, Local Authority of Freedom, Information, and Protection of Privacy, Part 2.
I so move.
Thank you. Seconder? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion's carried. We'll do a 5-minute recess. Amanda, can I just ask one favor? Do you mind just putting that specific motion? Okay, perfect. Just because.
We're on a roll here, so no more than 5 minute break.
Yes.